Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to go check out the filming locations for the 1984 masterpiece, Purple Rain. Let's go see what we can find. The movie begins with a revolution playing Let's Go Crazy inside of First Avenue in Minneapolis and a montage of everybody getting ready for the evening. Now, all those interior shots of the revolution and the time playing inside the club were shot at First Avenue in Minneapolis. However, during that beginning montage when it shows Prince and Morris Day arriving to First Avenue, those scenes were shot just about a block behind me. Those exterior shots of First Avenue in that beginning montage were shot here at the Wiltern Theater on the corner of Western and Wiltern in Los Angeles, California. We see the top of the Wiltern box office with a giant First Avenue sign behind it. Now, the funny thing is, there's no First Avenue sign like that, and there's no box office at First Avenue. The camera pans over to the right and we see the kid coming down the sidewalk through the cheering crowd. He's coming down the sidewalk on Western Avenue and he rounds the corner and heads down Wilshire. Morris Day's yellow Cadillac pulls up right here on Western. He gets out and checks himself in the mirror right in front of the Wiltern box office and that fake First Avenue sign before tossing his comb to the crowd. We see Apollonia arriving in Minneapolis, ditching her taxi cab driver and trying to find a place to stay. That's when she spots the Huntington Hotel. Now, in the movie, the Huntington's supposed to be located directly across from First Avenue, but in real life, it's located right here in downtown Los Angeles. Now, that building right next door with the black awning, that's where Sally's Fabrics was, and that can be seen multiple times throughout the movie. Apollonia heads upstairs and rents apartment 23. Now, those interior shots of Apollonia's apartment were actually shot in the building directly across the street from First Avenue. So those scenes where she's looking out the window at First Avenue, that was all real. We see Morris and Billy walking down the street right here, just about a block from the Huntington Hotel. You can actually see the Sally's Fabrics sign in the background behind them. As you can see, the same exact streetlights that you see in the background behind Morris and Billy. We see Prince and Apollonia come riding this way down Main Street. Now, this big white structure on the left side, this was not here at the time. That was just a big empty lot. However, this building can be seen very well in the background behind them, along with these two smaller brick buildings on the left. Prince cuts across Main Street and pulls over right here in front of the Huntington Hotel. Now, Prince would have been on his motorcycle right in front of where I'm standing. Apollonia would have been right there on the sidewalk, somewhere in between that scooter and that parking meter. He asks if he can see her tonight. They kiss goodbye, and he rides away. Now, again, this big white building on the left, this was not here at the time. This was just a big empty lot. You can see that multiple times in the movie. But when Prince rides away, it cuts to Minneapolis, giving the illusion that First Avenue is directly across the street from the Huntington. Morris and Jerome are parked right here in front of where I'm standing. Apollonia walks out those doors and she sees Morris's big yellow Cadillac. She approaches the car and speaks with them, and he offers her the cassette tape of Sex Shooter. Apollonia walks away and Morris chases after her. They have a conversation right here. Now, in the movie, you can see the Hotel Cecil in the background behind them. It's impossible to see now because of how much the trees have grown. But if you head across the street, there it is, the Hotel Cecil, just as you see it in the movie. During that beginning montage, we very briefly see Morris inside of his apartment, cleaning, picking out a suit, and getting ready for the evening. And just a few moments later, we see his yellow Cadillac parked in front of this building. Morris comes walking out those doors and running down these steps before jumping into his Cadillac. The scenes with Prince and Apollonia purifying herself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka were filmed at the Minnesota River, but that's not entirely true. Portions of that scene were shot here at Franklin Canyon in Beverly Hills. Now, the majority of that scene, including Apollonia jumping into the water, was shot in Minnesota. But when it comes to the close-ups, whenever you see Prince, that's Minnesota, and when it cuts to Apollonia, those scenes were shot in Los Angeles. After Apollonia gets out of the water, Prince tells her to get on the back of his bike, but he keeps inching away. That scene was shot right here in Franklin Canyon. Prince's motorcycle would have been somewhere right about here. He keeps inching away from her. He finally lets her get on the back of the bike and tells her not to get his seat all wet. They take off up this hill and down this dirt road. A little bit later in the movie, we see Prince return to Franklin Canyon as he reminisces on the good times that him and Apollonia had here. He stands right up here on this wall, staring down at the water, remembering him and Apollonia being together down there in the grass. Alright, this has got to be the coolest thing that I found, and I totally didn't expect to find this. This is the little dock that Prince is standing on, staring into the body of water that used to be right here. This is more of the shot that you get the cameras shooting from over this way, looking at Prince standing on it. Now, as you can see, most of the wood just rotted away, but some of the boards are still here in place. And this metal wheel right here that's used to let the water out, you can see this just barely in one of the shots right by Prince's foot. We see Prince crossing underneath the 101 freeway just west of the LA River. Now, in my personal opinion, I think Love God should be permanently painted on these pillars. In this scene, we see Prince coming underneath the 101 freeway through that bigger tunnel on the right. He comes down this way and passes right underneath the freeway right here. Basically, he's riding through those two tunnels in different shots. In this shot, he's riding through that bigger tunnel on the left. And then in this shot, he's riding through that smaller tunnel on the right. He goes under the freeway bridge and we see him pass right by this big electrical tower right here before heading on towards the Cesar Chavez Street Bridge. Prince is riding his motorcycle down 7th Street coming towards me. You can see that Dearden's building in the background and these dentist's office over here on the right. When he pulls his motorcycle over, these two buildings are in the background behind him. He pulls his motorcycle over right there at the curb. He looks around at the traffic and then gets angry at the bus and heads down the alley. This is the alley that he goes down. Notice those 3 big windows down at the end. This is the intersection he rides his motorcycle through, and then right over there, that's where the Taste is. And then right down here to the right is where Apollonia's hotel is. So everything's shot right off of Main Street between 7th and 8th. Prince is coming this way down Irolo Street when he sees his mom sitting on the curb and he pulls over to see if she's okay. Now, Prince's mom would have been sitting right here on the curb, right in front of where I'm standing. And this is the shot that we get with these houses in the background behind Prince's head. This building right here, this was the Taste, the nightclub where Apollonia 6 performs. Now, although the outside of it looks a lot different, there's still some of the original stonework left behind. Prince comes down Cesar Chavez, around the corner and underneath the bridge. Now, those scenes with him and Apollonia were shot right over here. Unfortunately, it appears that it's now used as some type of city storage. It's fenced off and just full of junk. So just about everything else is either filmed on location in Minnesota or on a set. The kids' house is located in Minneapolis. This is some footage that I took from my family's last trip to Minnesota in 2017. And as you can see, the house looks just about the same as it did in 1984, besides having an enclosed porch now. The door that you see on the front of the house now is not the original door that you see Prince going in and out of in the movie, but if you look through this window right here, you can see that original door. Now, as I'm sure most of you know, when Prince passed away, it was revealed that he was the owner of this house. And to me, that just shows how much Purple Rain meant to him, and I think that's awesome. Now, when we were there in 2017, the house was vacant and people had been leaving a lot of different memorials on the front of the house. Our son told us that he wanted to leave something. It was a little neat. He added something to the memorial that he drew himself. Again, all of the interior club scenes and the majority of the exterior club scenes were shot on location at First Avenue in Minneapolis. Here's some shots that we took from our 2017 trip, and as you can see, it looks just about the same as it did, except for all those stars painted on the side of the building. Now each star has the name of a different artist that's performed there over the years. All the stars are silver except for Prince. We came back later in the evening and the people that run the club were really cool about letting us come in for 5 or 10 minutes and just look around and take some pictures. This star is located inside First Avenue to commemorate Purple Rain. The only interior club scenes that weren't shot at First Avenue were those backstage and dressing room scenes due to the backstage area being too small at First Avenue. So all those dressing room scenes were shot at the nearby Orpheum Theater because it had a much larger backstage area.
Next thing you know, you'd be wanting to use his motorcycle.
The scenes with Prince and Apollonia walking around the mall and looking at the guitar through the storefront window were shot at the Crystal Court in Minneapolis. Alright, I've got one more filming location for you guys, and I think it's a pretty good one. I actually had no idea where this was until a couple of years ago, and it just kind of fell into my lap. It was a total surprise to me. So what happened was, my wife took me on the Warner Brothers studio tour for my birthday. So we're there, we're doing the tour, and the tour guide notices that my wife's wearing a Prince hoodie. He says something like, "Oh, I see somebody back there wearing a Prince hoodie. Are you guys Prince fans?" We cheer and give him a thumbs up, and he says, "Oh, great. Are you guys familiar with Purple Rain?" So we politely nod, and he says, "Then let me show you guys where they shot the album and movie cover." He takes us around the corner, and there it is. I mean, I almost fell over. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It quickly became one of the coolest birthdays ever. And it turns out this is a pretty famous alley. It's not only where they shot the Purple Rain album and movie cover, they also shot Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Gremlins, and the first Spider-Man movie here. So like I said, it was a total surprise, and needless to say, a pretty pleasant one. And to think he may have never shown it to us if my wife didn't wear her Prince sweater that day. Okay, so that's gonna do it for this video. The filming locations for one of my favorite movies by my all-time favorite artist. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.